Hello there, it's Hill of the Armageddon Report. Three things to talk about Tropical Cyclone wise. So we've got Tropical Depression Wukong, that was the final advisory as of yesterday, issued from the JTWC, and now Pagasa, Wukong slash Quinta, I believe, has now weakened into a low pressure area. So that system no longer a threat as a tropical cyclone. This thing over here out in the Samoan Islands and the Vanuatu area is up to a high chance of tropical cyclone formation in the next 24 hours. And this is a new one out here off the coast of Australia that's a low chance of tropical cyclone formation in the next 24 hours. So let us talk about this one over here. So this is off the Fiji website where they've got it up on their scale getting as high as a category 3. However, if you go down here, basically, it appears that on their scale, a category Cyclone 3 is roughly the equivalent of like a category 1 hurricane or a quote-unquote category 1 typhoon. Typhoons don't really, it goes on the typhoon thing, it generally goes like tropical depression, tropical storm, then a typhoon. So it's roughly equivalent, a typhoon is roughly equivalent to a category 1 hurricane where the scale starts. So anyway, to put that in perspective, basically they've got it on their path map as getting up to as high as like a typhoon slash hurricane. So, yes, that is their thing. So this is here's some other opinions, I guess, on where this thing may head. So this is the ECMWF, stands for European Center for Medium Range Weather Forecasting or something like that. So this is the area of interest out there near the Samoan Islands and Vanuatu. This is the thing out here off the coast of Australia. So, and this is in 12-hour gaps. So the ECMWF definitely has this thing turning into a tropical cyclone. It looks like it would be a decently strong tropical cyclone. However, before it even really gets to New Caledonia, basically breaks apart. And then if you look over here, it kind of looks like with the ECMWF that this thing doesn't really materialize into anything of note at any point. Now, that doesn't mean that it won't still cause like dangerous surf conditions, gust conditions, but it doesn't look to my unskilled eye as a intense tropical cyclone. So that's the ECMWF. They're the one who is forecasting probably, I'd say, the least intensification of either of those storms. This is CMC. This is the Canadian Meteorological Centre, is that what it stands for? So here, again, is the two areas of interest, this thing out here, this thing over there. And this thing, however, goes in 3-hour increments, so it moves much more slowly. Let me move my mouse. So with the CMC model, this thing looks like it's going to be a much more intense tropical cyclone. And so, same thing with that. That thing looks like it's much more intense as well. Yeah, so this is as far... So, the ECMWF has this thing breaking up around this point. What is with the CMC model? Let's see. Okay, so there's the end of it. It goes to 12 Zulu, January 2nd. So this thing, the CMC model, appears to show it hitting New Caledonia as a still fairly significant tropical cyclone, I'd say. So the last thing we're going to look at is the GFS, which goes out even further in time, and it actually seems to look a lot like the CMC. So this is the last one. So this thing kind of not putting together. This is also in 3-hour increments, I should say. So this thing doesn't have this thing off the coast of Australia turning into anything. But watch this thing. Let's just go. This thing, so shows it basically hitting New Caledonia, and then it keeps going. So I don't know how feasible this thing is, because as of Tropical Cyclone Evan, there wasn't sea surface temperatures and other things supportive out here near New Zealand. So Tropical Cyclone Evan started breaking apart about up in this area. So it did still impact New Zealand, but not as a tropical cyclone, as like former Evan. So, but this thing shows basically like this really massive tropical cyclone hitting New Zealand. Whereas, bringing it back to the first thing we looked at, the ECMWF shows it like basically dying right around this thing, whereas GFS, it just keeps going. Anyway, yes. So, that's kind of interesting, and yeah, so we'll keep an eye on it and stuff. And then there was this stuff out here. I have not run the models for this data out here, where several of the models yesterday anyway were showing like a fairly significant tropical cyclone forming out near Madagascar. So the Reunion Islands, it didn't look at the time like it would have made landfall directly in Madagascar, but there's islands out here that would definitely quite possibly be impacted. And of course, you know, it can cause wind conditions outside of where it actually officially makes landfall. It can cause dangerous surf conditions, so on and so forth. Swells, whatever that all means. Yes, so that is what's happening. So this thing, between the three models, only I think one of them really shows it turning into anything of note. And however, it doesn't seem to. It seems like it'd be brushing past Australia instead of making a direct landfall. And then the ECMWF shows this thing dissipating out there. The CMC shows it definitely impacting New Caledonia. And then the GFS shows it even getting to New Zealand. New Zealand does get tropical cyclones, just not very often. And by tropical cyclones, I mean officially still a tropical cyclone, not a former tropical cyclone. Yes, so that is it in the world of tropical cyclones. Severe thunderstorm weather-wise in the US. Absolutely nothing today. The mesoscale discussion is about the snowfall rate in Maine. So that's what that thing is about. So not severe thunderstorms. However, tomorrow it was previously a 5% and it's been upgraded to a 15%. So this area of Louisiana and Mississippi. And it does mention tornadoes down here. Let's see, where is it? There we go. Scroll up. So this will favor damaging wind gusts as well as the potential for a tornado or two. So nothing like the Christmas Day event, but it is basically hitting some of the same, well, potentially hitting some of the same areas as was happening on that day. So right now, probability numbers doesn't look anything like the tornado thing, but of course, if you've already had wind damage and tornado damage, it's no fun, right, to get another round of that sort of stuff. Here's a probability map. So it's fairly limited, whereas I think the December 25th thing was much wider. So not as big as a threat. Tomorrow's thing is nowhere near as big as a threat as the 25th, but, you know, obviously still something to keep an eye on. SevereWeatherTV.com is the official homepage of the screencast. WikiWix is WICKEDWX.com. Cyclocane is CYCLOCANE.com. That is it for today. Stay safe out there.